All right. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I am so excited to be introducing my guest today, Chaz Bono. He has been a trailblazer for the LGBT community, and you'll recognize him from his projects like American Horror Story. His new film, Bury the Bride, premieres at Panic Fest this weekend before streaming on Tubi later this month. So thanks for being with us today, Chaz.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Glad to have you. So I watched the movie this morning, and I have to say I am sufficiently creeped out. So mission accomplished.
Good.
So I do want to say I'm a big fan of horror. You've done several projects in this genre. What is it that pulls you towards the world of horror?
Um, I mean, I think from a strictly acting point of view, I love the characters that you get to play in horror. It's you can really disappear in them. There's a lot of bad characters which I really enjoy playing. It kind of I feel like it works with the style of acting that I really love to do. And then I've been a horror fan, since I was a kid. So I personally really love the genre. I love it as a storytelling tool. I think you can say a lot, make great statements in horror in a completely different way than other genres. And then from as a producer, uh, I felt really safe because you can make great horror on smaller budgets, and the the horror fans are just the greatest fans ever. And really support the films. So
Yeah, and I definitely count myself among those fans. So you're both an actor and you mentioned a producer on this project. How did this movie come into fruition and how did you first get involved?
sure. So Krsy Fox, the co-writer and star of the film, and I have the same manager. And he had been trying to get us together just because he thought we had such similar, tastes and sensibilities towards film. And he also thought we were going to just hit it off, which we did. And so, I had talked by that point. They had made she had made two films, I Live Alone and Frank, and I think trying to remember if Allegoria was done at that point. It might have been. So they had this wealth of experience of producing these films, and so we just kind of started with talking about that I really was hoping to go in that direction. Um, and then they finished the script for Bury the Bride, and I read it, and I just love. I mean, I love the script. It was one of those scripts that I could really visualize as I was reading it, and that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you're reading a script and you're like space out, and you have to go back a page. This was just so engaging and exciting, and so that was really what initially got me involved. And then Krsy was like I want you to play this character Puppy, and um I was like, okay, he doesn't speak, Krsy. He doesn't ever, he barely speaks in the film. And she was like, I'm telling you, it's going to be this incredibly impactful character. Really helps, tell story. There's a big kind of surprise when I do finally speak. And, and she convinced me to feel safe in doing that, which I did. And I'm just from the acting point, thrilled how my character kind of turned out. And I think that she was absolutely right that it is when I don't speak for the whole most of the film, and then when I finally do, it's got a lot of impact. So um,
So was it Chrissy's idea that the character would be named
yeah,
Puppy?
yeah, that was Krissy's idea. She had told me that it kind of came from growing up her brothers. She's like, there was always a friend like Puppy with a weird name like that. And that was kind of the inspiration. And then we talked about the character and part of his backstory, and I felt like I was able to help shape that a little bit. So it was, yeah, it just turned out to be perfect and the right thing, as she said.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's not too much of a spoiler, but there's a lot of, fake blood in this movie. What was it like kind of working with that on set?
So blood is interesting. I mean, I worked with a lot of it in American Horror Story too. Um, and really none of them are terrible to have to deal with, other than I'm not a huge fan of mouth blood because it tastes like it's just the sweetest thing you've ever had in your mouth, but not in a
Mm,
good way.
yeah.
But it, nothing looks. You have to have blood, in these things. Like you can't do special effects. Like you need the blood, and so I totally appreciate
Yeah. So, very effective, sufficiently creepy. On to, a more serious topic. When you first came out as transgender, that was really kind of a watershed moment for trans visibility. How do you think the entertainment industry has improved since then for members of the trans community? And what advancements do you think still need to be made?
well, so certainly there. I mean, there have been more and more projects that have trans characters in it. What I would like to see is mainstream film and TV start to hire trans actors to play non-trans parts as well. Um, for me as a character actor, that never wanted a career just playing trans characters, and I think that's how most of us feel. Um, and so I really hope that starts to change eventually.
Yeah. How do you think you kind of break away from that sort of typecasting? And what would be some of your advice for younger trans actors that might be interested in working in the industry?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think first I just got super lucky with getting cast in American Horror Story, and that really set up my career. And then I think that's another reason why I'm drawn to horror. It's very inclusive. I find it to be a very inclusive genre. There are a lot of all different kinds of fans, including a ton of queer horror fans,
Hmm.
and so you know, I've been able to play all types of different characters in this genre, um and 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 never a trans character. And so that definitely attracts me. It's just I find an inclusivity in horror that just doesn't really exist to the same degree in other genres.
It- Why do you think that is? I mean, I have my own ideas, but I'm just kind of curious. What do you think it is about the horror genre that creates such a welcoming space for queer people and also kind of draws queer fans in?
I think it's a few things. I mean, I think as horror fans in general, we've all, people have looked down on horror, and those of us who are obsessed with it. And I think that gives us all an outsider kind of status. And so to have different, groups within that are, I think it attracts marginalized people in a lot of ways. And then there's also been some great, um, you know, queer horror, horror films made by queer people. You can tell a story, and I mean, I'm just pulling this out, but you can, and this is something I've actually talked with Krsy about wanting to do at some point, playing a trans character in one of our films, because I think that we can use the device of horror, you can really illustrate stuff like the attack on trans people in our country right now.
Mhm.
And I think that horror has always been that for all different groups of people.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that. As a member of the LGBT community myself. So your movie, Bury the Bride, it's going to be premiering at Panic Fest. Are you in Kansas City for that?
Yeah, I'm in Kansas City right now. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So I'm a Kansas Cityan, so gotta
Oh,
say welcome.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So gotta try the barbecue while you're here. I recommend Jack Stack. So
Okay,
that's
so
my personal
with
favorite.
that, I'm with because Chrissy's a vegetarian and Spider's a pescatarian, and I was like, I want to try to get some barbecue while I'm here, guys.
I want to thank you so much for speaking with me today. You have been such an icon and an inspiration for the LGBT community, and I love seeing your projects and
Thank you.
excited to see where things go.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yep, you're welcome. Thanks, Chaz.